Well, good morning, Kidzone. I hope you've been enjoying journeying through the book of Mark over the past couple of weeks. And today we've reached Mark chapter 3. You'll just have heard it be read in the church service. And as you've heard, it's a chapter full of highs and lows as Jesus continues his work here on earth. In this chapter, Jesus heals and teaches. He calls people to follow him and challenges people who are saying and doing the wrong thing. Sometimes the things that Jesus said and did were unpopular. He asked people to change and to rethink their old ways of thinking and acting, and they didn't always want to hear those things. This meant that as Jesus went about his work, he made some enemies. And that got me thinking about some famous enemies that we come across on TV or in books or in movies. I'm going to show you a picture of someone, and I want you to guess who their enemy is. Here's the first one. It's Grandmaster Glitch. Who is his enemy, or who are his enemies? Yep, it's the Go-Jetters. What about this famous enemy, Tom? Who is he always against? Yep, you've got it. It's Jerry. Here's Thanos from Endgame and from Infinity War. Who is he always fighting against? Yep, it's the Avengers. Here's Prince Hans. Who did he go against? Yep, Anna and Elsa. And finally, very famously, the Wicked Witch of the West. Who did she go up against? Yep, Dorothy and a bucket of water. The interesting thing is that the people who were against Jesus in this passage weren't just his enemies. His own family weren't sure that he was who he said he was, and even they wanted him to stop what he was doing. When it comes to you and me following Jesus, sometimes there are people who will dislike us or make fun of us for choosing to follow him, or for going to church, or for choosing to do the right thing when everyone else is doing the wrong thing. And that can be hard. When someone is against us and makes things difficult for us because we follow Jesus, it can make it hard to follow him and do what's right. But sometimes it might even be people who are close to us that might make following Jesus difficult. Our friends might want us to choose them rather than choose going to church or to going to BB or GB. Our family members may not love Jesus and may think it's silly that we do. We can find difficulties from different types of people. In Mark chapter 3, Jesus reminds us that if we follow him, then we are in his family. We have to put him first before anyone else, even when that's hard. If someone is giving you a hard time for following Jesus, then please talk to someone about that. Talk to your mum or your dad or someone at home or at church who cares for you. We'd love to support you and we'd love to pray for you. However, when we think of enemies, it's important for us to remember another enemy that the Bible tells us about. We read about those enemies in the book of Colossians chapter 1. And Paul says this: You used to be far from God. Your thoughts made you his enemies, and you did evil things. Because we are sinful, we do the wrong things, and we are God's enemies. That's a hard thing to hear, but it's true. But let's read on to see what else Paul has to say. He says this: But his son became a human and died. So God made peace with you. And now he lets you stand in his presence as people who are holy and faultless and innocent. But you must stay deeply rooted and firm in your faith. You must not give up the hope you received when you heard the good news. Wow, we were God's enemies. But Jesus came and took the blame for our wrong things and died for us, so that we can have peace with God and could be his friends. That's why he comes first, because he is the reason that we can be part of God's family. So when you see enemies on TV and in movies, remember what Jesus did for us to stop us from being God's enemies, and give thanks to him.